Hello everyone, in this video first we will answer the reading quiz for chapter 7 and then I'll solve some questions on your Edfinity assignment. Let's start with the reading quiz. First question, modern economics growth was made possible by, if you realize modern economic growth started with Industrial Revolution, therefore it started with technological advances of the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. Next question. The government of the country Excel provides a large number of grants for scientists to research new technologies and other processes. This action for sure is going to increase productivity, but we need to understand, is it because of the capital deepening or is it because of the technology, or what is the reason? So capital deepening is the increase in physical capital, which refers to the machines, equipments, structures that you need for production, or increase in human capital, which increases education and training. But here, if you read carefully, it says that scientists to research new technologies, therefore it's going to promote economic growth through technological advances. Number 3, which of the following countries would be more likely to experience strong economic growth, other things equal? So we need to find out the country that actually is on the right path using the correct right economic policies. So country GHI enforces private property rights only for some groups in society. This country is actually not going to experience strong economic growth because some groups have property rights but some others don't. Country DEF has common property laws and economic activities regulated by a national council. This represents mostly communist countries where a national council controls the property and individual people do not have right to have property. Country JKL's government has the right to take away property from individuals to distribute to government officials as they are better suited to have successful businesses. Again, here we have a problem because the private property should be given to people who are hardworking, not based on government officials. So for that reason, the government shouldn't have the right to take away property from individuals. Individuals should have private property rights for economic growth. And the last one is country ABC has an extensive set of business laws and property right laws which promote trust and economic activity. This is the correct answer. So now question number 4. Which of the following changes would increase labor productivity? If you read the textbook carefully, you find that labor productivity increases when you have more physical capital, a better technology, more training education, which refers to human capital, and more natural resources. And let's find out which one is correct. Workers in country Z use older equipment, so technology is missing here. Workers in country Y work in smaller family businesses without large-scale equipment. Here we are missing the physical capital part. Country W reduces the schooling and training, which is actually going to reduce the productivity because the higher the schooling and training, productivity increases. And the last one is workers in country X go through extensive technical training in most manufacturing sectors. Technical training is human capital. Increase in human capital increases labor productivity. Question number 5. Based on a country's aggregate production function, we need to find out which one is correct. Aggregate production function again is composed of human capital, physical capital, technology, and natural resources. An increase in human capital and physical capital could also increase the aggregate production function. This is correct. Population or workforce is the most important component of the production function. It's actually technology is the most important. All components of aggregate production function have to increase for the aggregate production function to increase. That's not correct. If only one of them increases, we can still see an increase in aggregate production function. And the last one, only improvements in technology increase the aggregate production function. That's not correct. 4 components, as I said, natural resources, physical capital, human capital, technology are affecting the production function, but the most important one is technology. Therefore, the first one is correct. Question number 6. Productivity is measured as, the productivity is the dollar value of a worker's hour of work. So worker's hour of work times the dollar value gives us the productivity. Question 7. Achieving economic growth over a long period of time and raising standard of living can be done through small consistent yearly growth over a long period of time. That is the correct one. like United States grows over the 100 years around 2 to 3%. A minimum of 10% growth every year. That's going to be helpful for developing countries so that they can catch the developed ones. But you don't have to have a minimum of 10% growth for the developed countries to have a rising standard of living. An average of 5% growth per year over many years. 5% is actually a very high growth rate. Therefore, it's going to raise the standards of living for many countries, but that may not be possible for, again, developed countries, because developed countries have already the capital, physical capital, education. Therefore, the increase in the growth mostly comes from the technology, and therefore, it's not easy to have 5%, 10% growth rate. But for countries that doesn't have enough education and physical capital, introducing these to the country will eventually shift the growth rate to 5 to 10%. And the next one, a large and sustained growth in population over many years. Population growth is not a factor here. So therefore, small, consistent yearly growth over a long period of time is enough to have a rising standard of living for a country. Question 8. In the country of Azart, businesses use new smart cell phones to speed up many tasks such as sales, recording, inventory checks, purchase orders. Which components of growth are recorded here? So they use new smart cell phones, therefore it's the technology, and also they use physical capital because they need the cell phones are also physical capital. The new smart cell phones is the technology. Therefore, physical capital and technology are presented here. Capital deepening refers to, remember, capital deepening refers to increase in physical and human capital. Therefore, the first one, a larger infrastructure and communication network, it can only increase the physical capital, but it also refers to human capital. Second one, the quantity of physical capital with better technology. The capital deepening doesn't refer to technology. It refers to increase in physical capital and human capital. The improvements in the education system, again, it's correct, but it's not complete. Capital deepening refers to increase in human capital and physical capital. Therefore, the last answer is correct, the increase in quantity and quality of capital per worker. Question number 10. Economic growth accounting studies show that the first one, population growth is the most important source of growth. That's not correct. Technology is the most important source of growth. Capital deepening is the most important factor in economic growth. That's not correct too, because capital deepening has diminishing returns. So the simple example is, if I give you one computer, if you work as a data analyst, your productivity increases a lot, but the second computer, that means increase in physical capital, is not going to increase your productivity as much as before. The reason, because the second computer that you are going to use when the first computer doesn't work. Therefore, capital deepening is not the most important factor. There is diminishing returns, the capital. When you increase the capital, the return from the capital diminishes. Technology is the most important component of the economic growth is correct. So these are the answers for the quiz question. Now let's look at some questions from Edfinity assignment. The numbers that you see on your homework assignment could be different, but if you learn how to solve this type of questions, then you can apply to any problems that you have. So let's read the question first. Suppose in 2000, the country of Minitown had a GDP of 137,000 and a population of 400. In 2001, GDP increased to 138,200 and the population increased to 650. And now we need to find out the productivity increase or decrease or stay the same in Minitown over these years. So to calculate this question, first we need to find GDP per capita. Here GDP per capita is equal to GDP divided by population. And for the year 2000, it's 137,000 divided by 400. In 2001, it is 138,200 divided by 650. So here, $342.5 per person. Here, $212.615,385 per person. As you see, the labor productivity from 2000 to 2001 is decrease. Now let's look at question 6. The table below lists GDP and GDP growth rates for the countries Toronia, Guessville, and Quarterville. Fill in the final column which asks for the GDP in each country 15 years later. So you were given the initial GDP. For the first country, for instance, it's 12,400, and you have the annual growth rate, and you need to calculate the GDP in 15 years. So what you are going to do is you are going to get the initial value, 12,400. This is the formula that you need to use, which is 1 plus, you are going to write 4% in decimal form, 0.04. And then here to the power is going to be the number of years. So this is going to tell us what is going to be the GDP if the GDP grows 4% per year after 15 years. So you can use a Google calculator to calculate this. Just search calculator here. So you're typing 12,400 times, open parentheses, 1 plus 0.04 is 1.04. Close the parentheses, and then 15 years. That's how you calculate, which in this case, it's going to be 22,331.6994683. And then you go back to your assignment. And then let's type here 22,331.6994683, and then submit. So you're going to calculate the remaining numbers accordingly. Now let's look at another question. In 2017, the country of Mistania had a GDP of 37,600 and the country of Portlandia had a GDP of 18,800, which is half, 50% of Mistania's GDP. If Mistania grows at the slow rate of 2% for 5 years, while Portlandia grows at the fast rate of 7% for 5 years, what will Portlandia's GDP be as a percentage of Mistania's GDP? So we are going to use the same formula to calculate this. We start with Mistania's GDP, which is 37,600, times this country is growing 0.02% in decimal form, and I want to know after 5 years what is the growth rate. And then we will do the same calculation, this time for Portlandia. Portlandia has an initial GDP of 18,800, but it grows at 7%, and I want to know what is the GDP after 5 years. Again, we go here, calculator, and calculate first Mistania, which is 37,600 times, open the parentheses, 1.0.2, close the parentheses, to the power 5. And Mistania's GDP is 41,513.438203. And we will do the same calculation for now the other country. 18,800 times, open the parentheses, 1.07 to the power 5. And that's equal to 26,367, 9.725372. This is the GDP for Portlandia. Now let's go back to homework again. And the question is asking, after 5 years, what will Portlandia's GDP as a percentage of Mistania's? So we need to take first this number, right? Because it's asking Portlandia what is the percentage of Mistania, which is 26,367.9725372, and divide this by the Mistania's GDP, 41,513.438203. Then you can use your calculator and then calculate. It's close to 63.515%. And let's see which one is going to be accepted. You have to be careful with Edfinity. It doesn't tell you how many decimals to put in it. So let's try 64% and then see if it's correct. Then we can try 63%. It's not correct. 63.515. Yes, that is correct. So 63.5, the question is asking to include one decimal. So try several things to find out the answer for this type of questions. So let's solve this question. This is going to be the last question that I'm going to solve for today. In 2016, Ari could process 112 pounds of guavas in an 8-hour shift. In 2017, they could process 128.8 pounds of guavas in an 8-hour shift. What is most likely change in their wage between 16 and 17? So the wages growth as much as the productivity growth. So we need to find out the productivity growth. So the productivity for Ari is 112.8 for 2016. And 2017, it is 128.8 divided by 8. So 112 divided by 8 is equal to 14. And here it's equal to 16.1. So the growth is 16.1 minus 14 divided by 14 times 100. It should be 15%. Productivity growth of 15%. The company is not going to pay more than the productivity growth. So the company is not going to pay 22.5 or 16.5. It's not correct that the productivity doesn't increase, so the wage should increase. It's not decrease, therefore the right answer is 12%.